increase the funding, reinstitute funding for CFAR as our economy grows. As I've long said, the 700,000 jobs that Blagojevich and Quinn have cost us, the 200,000 jobs that Governor Quinn has cost us just in his last 15 months, cost the state of Illinois over $4,000 a job. By stopping the chatter on increasing tax rates on families and businesses, by reducing the estate tax penalty, the sales tax, eliminating bureaucracy, we can bring those jobs back to Illinois. 700,000 jobs cost Illinois over $3 billion in revenue. There's no question that I have to cut spending initially to redefine a budget that works for the people of Illinois. But the reason to do that is so that Illinois' economy would be at the forefront of growth. And the dollars that we will bring into Illinois by bringing jobs back, not to mention the quality of life to a family and the wealth to that family, by bringing those jobs will be an incremental portion of reinstituting investment in research and development.
What does CFAR stand for?
Oh, God. Farmer.
Council for Food and Research.
There we go.
What is it?
Council for Food and Agricultural Research.
How much money used to be in it?
I think it was 2.1 million.
Okay, and how much, are you saying that you can put zero in the first year? Was it 15 million when it started?
And Governor Quinn
You don't know anything about this program.
Huh?
So you don't really know about this program.
Well, no, I've worked with this program for a decade.
Yeah.
We've had it. Governor Quinn zeroed out the financing in his first budget. It's the resources that we use at many of our institutions of higher education to advance research and development.
Okay, and how much would you, if the economy is still sluggish, are you saying you could put nothing in the first year?
As I said, as we incrementally grow revenues for the state, it will be a priority of a Brady administration to maintain that, to incrementally increase that investment back up to where it could.
But you're making no promise for the first year.
No.
And then how much was in, how much is AgriFirst, and what is that?
It's about $250,000 a year.
$250,000?
Yeah.
You'll be able to find that?
It's in the budget right now.
And then research and development in universities, are you talking about a particular figure?
Well, the CFAR money will provide that, and then we'll
So you're talking about
collectively work within the agricultural schools and colleges around this state to put policies in place that will advance us in terms of research and development.
And the inheritance tax that you want to get rid of, how much money does that bring in annually now?
We estimate it's about a $300 million cost to eliminate it just in the inheritance tax. What we fail to realize is the revenues we're losing because people are leaving the state of Illinois. $300 million would quickly be offset by keeping retiring baby boomers in the state, the revenues that they spend. It has killed Illinois' economy because Blagojevich and Quinn have saw fit to be one of the few states in the nation that double taxes inheritance. And what happens is when someone relocates to another state because they don't have that penalty, they're prohibited from spending more than half of their year in Illinois. And when they can't spend time in Illinois, a state where they earned their living, a state where they grew up, and they have to spend in another state, that's where they spend their money. So what Governor Quinn has done by continuing this policy is forced the economic decision on many parts of retiring Illinois citizens, baby boomers, to relocate in other states, costing our state revenues. When those people move, not only do they not spend money here, but they cost Illinois jobs because of their lack of spending.
You know what percentage that tax is? And I've heard for years that people have tried to protect family farms from this particular tax. What is that percentage, and has that changed?
It all depends on the floating scale of the federal government income tax, estate tax, and the size of your state.
So let me get this straight. You're criticizing Quinn for cutting CFAR money, even though you're going to do the exact same thing and put no money into it right now because the economy is slow. Is the economy slow now?
What I've said is, as we regrow the economy, I'm recommitting Illinois through revenues to the CFAR program because we need the research and development to maintain the prestige that we have in agriculture and to grow it.
But the immediate impact is the same. You both agree that right now you can't afford it. Is that correct?
Governor Quinn and I differentiate on the budget. I've said I have to cut a dime in every dollar in government spending. So the answer to your question, I guess, is yes.
Well, when are you going to release a more detailed description of this dime of every dollar? Where cut specifically, and how you get beyond that 10% to deal with the entire budget? Well,
the details will come immediately after Auditor General works with me to do a comprehensive audit. We don't have, last year the government gave Governor Quinn $3 billion in discretionary spending that we don't have answers to. The Heinz Comptroller's Office claims that we owe over $4 or $5 billion to vendors that we don't know who we owe to. The lack of transparency from this insider government is creating an environment that you can't give specifics to those details. But what I have said is it's the responsibility of the governor to balance the budget. Governor Quinn has failed to do that. He made promises last year he did not live up to. He's making promises this year that he seems to not be living up to. I owe it to the people of Illinois to balance the budget, and as governor, I will balance the budget. I've suggested that that's at least eliminating a dime in every dollar. Now, let's face it, much of it will come from fraud, waste, abuse, mismanagement. I mean, just look at the overtime pay. Look at the $1 million they spend in the corrections department on cable TV. There's a lot of anecdotal issues out there, but the mismanagement in state government is running rampant. Governor Quinn has failed to remove the Retsko-Blagojevich appointees. He's had holdovers from that administration, and as governor, I will clean house.
So you're saying that only after you're elected will you give anything more precise than just 10 cents on every dollar?
What we've said is we've got to cut spending, and every area of state government's going to share in that responsibility.
And you've also said you're against across-the-board cuts. So when are you going to tell people this agency needs to cut this much, this agency needs to cut this much, and here's how I'll do it?
I will demand of every agency to come back with a budget at 90%. Show us what your priorities are within that 90%. That's what I've said. Well, they don't work for me until I'm elected.
But you have been a senator for years.
Yeah.
You know.
How many FOIAs have you filed with this administration? You can't get information out of them. You know that as well as I do.
I just want to be clear on this point. You're saying that only after you're elected will you give voters a more precise roadmap of how you would cut the budget.
I think I'm pretty precise. A dime in every dollar is pretty precise.
That gets you about maybe a quarter of the way there.
Depends on. No, it doesn't.
Of teachers laid off, right?
Not necessarily.
How do you cut 10% out of school budgets or education money and then not fire people?
The local school districts will make those decisions.
And where do they get the money if they?
You know, maybe they'll have to forego some pay raises.
Is that enough? If they're getting 10%
you know,
less money.
we're trying to drill down and see what the average pay raises are within those things. So maybe they'll have to make some decisions like the private sector's made.
Like raising property taxes?
No.
So less money for schools, but no layoffs, but no tax increases for them to operate.
Less money for schools, but no layoffs. And what'd you say?
And no property tax increases for them to operate.
Well, there's some natural property tax increases that will go into effect. I mean, if you drill down to education funding, the state of Illinois provides less than a third, okay? So that would be a cut of less than 2.5% under what we defined as our budget. Now, I think if you look at pay raises and you look at some other things, there's various options at the local level. I will ask them to be responsible as we have to be. But let's face the facts here. The Quinn government has been spending money we don't have. We need a fiscal conservative to step into state government and live within our means. I didn't say it's going to be easy. And I didn't say all of it will come from rooting out corruption, fraud, waste, and mismanagement. Much of it will. Much of it will. Look at the Director of Corrections. I mean, you talk about mismanagement in the Department of Corrections, a guy who can't even put an early release program together with a solid computer system, and he won't fire him. I'm going to bring real professionals in to do that.
To do an early release program?
No. To run the Department of Corrections.
Well, there's an example of
but let's talk about pay raises.
There's an example of where they're trying to cut spending